in your mind regarding the interfaces. So here we have some important points related to the interface which we need to keep in our mind. What are they? Let's see. Okay, one, implements keyword is used by classes to implement an interface. For example, when we people were making the inheritance of a class, we people were using the keyword extend. Let's say class child extend parent, class child extend parent. So keyword क्या लिखते थे हम? Extend. But what if we want to implement an interface in a class, so we write syntax like this, we see the later on. So let's say the example is class child implements interface my interface. I repeat again, class child implements interface my interface. So class child is the child class and implement is the keyword which we are using to implement the interface, and interface again is the keyword for interface, and my interface is the interface name. So we are implementing the interface which has name my interface in the class child. Okay, next it says, while providing the implementation in class of any method of an class, it needs to be mentioned as public. Yes, keep this in mind. While providing the implementation in class of any method of an interface, it needs to be mentioned as public. Means all method should be public in interface, then you can implement those methods in your class. It's clear. Next point, it says class that implements any interface must implement all methods of that interface, else the class should be declared abstract. Yes, it's true. Any class which is implementing an interface, it's necessary for that class that it must implement all its method. If it does not implementing all its method, then that class is abstract class. Okay, then that class is abstract class. For example, an interface having two methods and a child class implementing that interface, if it is implementing its two method, then it's okay. But if it is implementing only one method while one leaving, then that class becomes an abstract class, then it is not the regular class. Next point, it says interface cannot be declared as private, protected or the transient. Yes, interface will always remain public. You cannot declare this as private, protected or transient, while usually a class may be private or maybe protected or maybe public, while interface will always public. That's why you can implement. If you are keeping it private or protected, then you cannot implement interface in any class. Next point, it says all the interface methods are by default abstract and public. I told you all methods in an interface are by default abstract and as well as public. Why by default abstract? Why by default abstract? Because they are incompleted. And why we need to keep them public? Because we are going to implement them in a class. That's why we do need interfaces like public. Now the next point, it says variables declared in interface are public, static and final by default. Yes, whatever the variables or the items or the field you declare in an interface, they are by default public, static and final. Why they are by default? public? Because you are going to implement them. Why they are static? Because once you declare their value, then you can't change. And why they are final? Because if you want to keep them only one value in the entire program, then they should be declared by final by default. Let's see the example. Let's say we have a keyword interface and the name of that keyword is try. You may give any name. Then its body starts with the help of the curly brackets over here. Here I'm declaring a variable with the name integer a is equal to 10. Then public integer is a is equal to 10. Now public static final integer is equal to 10. Only final integer is equal to 10, and static integer is a is equal to 10. Now look here, 1 2 3 4 5, all different 5 statements, they have same meaning. All different 5, they have same meaning. How they have same meaning? Don't get confused. Let me repeat it again. I told you every variable over here, you can see variable declared in an interface are public, static and final by default. So this says either you write public, either you write static, either you write final, they are by default public, static and final. If you are writing public, so no issue, you can write. If you are writing public, static, final, again focus on this statement, public, static and final, all three are joined. So public, static, final, same meaning is here. Only final, okay, no problem, same meaning is here. Only static, okay, no problem, they have same meaning in the interface. Okay, so all they have the same sense in the above code. Now the next point, it says an interface variable must be initialized at the time of the declaration, otherwise compiler will throw an error. Yes, yes, it's true. In a class, first you declare the variable, then you assign a variable, or you can do both things in one step. For example, if I'm writing variable a, then semicolon, it means let's say I'm writing a integer a and then semicolon, it means I'm only here declaring. But what if I write integer a is equal to 20, I'm assigning as well as declaring both in one step. But if I write integer a then colon, I only declared, then in the next line I'm giving a is equal to 20, so I'm assigning here the variable. So you can do both in a class, but when you are dealing with the interfaces, you cannot do the separately both one, you have to do both in a one line. Normal and generally simple meaning is this, that you cannot declare the variable in an interface and then assign the value. You need to assign as well as declare in one step. For example, over here, let's see the example, interface try, then its body start, and here you are only declaring integer x, so it will give you the compile time error. Okay, you are not allowed to declare the variable in the interface. So above code will throw a compile time error as the value of the variable x is not initialized at the time of the declaration. Okay, the next point, it says inside any implementation class you cannot change the variables declared in the interface, because by default they are public, static and final. Yes, at this point let me explain. For example, in an interface you have declared integer age is 20. Please try to concentrate. In an interface you have declared a variable integer age 20. Now you want to access or implement this variable value in a class, and over there you want to change its value. Let's say you want to write here integer age is 25 or 30, you are not allowed. Because why? Because in an interface all variables, they are by default public, static and final. Public mean you can access them, static and final mean they are fixed. Once you have defined their value, then you do not have right to change their value further. Okay, so next, now here we are implementing the interface try, which has a variable x. Let's see the example. When we try to set the value for the variable x, we got compilation error, as the variable x is public static final by default, and the final variables cannot be reinitialized, right? So let's see the one more example. Here we have class sample, a class having name sample. It is implementing the interface try. It implements try is the interface. So here we say public static void main and so on. Now it's body start. Now here let's say 20, x is equal to 20. It's a time error. Why error? Because we had x value something else in the try. Okay, x is a variable which is having some else value in the try, but in the time of the implementation in a class we try to change its value, so we had error with the name compile time error. Okay, so class, then we say, so here you are not allowed to change. Now next point, it says an interface can extend any interface. Yes, an interface can extend any other interface. As I told you in example that one interface can extend multiple interfaces, but it cannot implement. Just keep this thing in your mind. Simple and clear meaning: an interface can extend one or more than one interfaces at a time. I repeat again, an interface can extend one or more than one interfaces at a time, but an interface cannot implement to another interface. I repeat again, an interface can extend any other interface, but an interface cannot implement any other interface. So simple meaning, interface can extend another interface, and interface cannot implement another interface, right? So a class implements interface and interface extend interface. So now here the second part of the sentence is this: a class may implement an interface. Okay, let me redo it for you. A class can interface to another interface, but a class cannot extend an interface. Please, 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 please do not mix it. There are two different concepts. One concept is this: an interface can extend any other interface, but it can not implement any other interface. I repeat again, an interface can extend any other interface, but it cannot implement any other interface, while a class can implement any other interface, but it cannot extend the interface. Okay, I repeat again, a class can implement interfaces, but a class cannot extend any other interface. Is it clear? Class implements interface and interface extend the interface. This means that. Next point, it says a class can implement any number of interfaces. I told you a class may implement one or more than one interfaces at a time, but a class cannot extend any other interface. An interface can extend one or more than one interfaces at a time, but an interface cannot implement any other interface. So interface is implemented by a class. Okay, an interface is extended by another interface. if there are two or more same method, yes, that's very important point for all of us. Please just focus here. Here we say that let me resize it. Okay, so here you can see, if there are two or more than two same methods, if there are two or more same methods in two interfaces and a class implements both interfaces, implementation of the method once is enough. Simply meaning of this point is this: there we have two methods which have same name. I repeat again, there are two methods which have same name in two interfaces. We have two interfaces, and in these two interfaces we have two same methods with the same name. But when you want to implement these method in a class, so once is enough. What does this mean? Let's see with the help of the example. Okay, here we can see, let's say we have interface A, its body, then it has a method with the name ah, that's finish. Let's see we have another interface with the name B, body, and it has the same method. Here you can see we have an interface with the name A, we have another interface with the name B, this interface having a method AAA, and it is having the same method with the name AAA. Okay. Now you are going to implement these interfaces in a class. So class central implementing method interfaces A and B, right? So interface A and B are implemented by class central. Okay, so over here once its name is enough. Okay, so you don't need to call here two times, because both method in interface A and interface B are same, right? So both methods are same. Is it clear? Okay ji. Next point, it says a class cannot implement two interfaces that have methods with the same name but different return type. Here you can see two interfaces A and B having same method name, but they do have same data type as well. They do have same data type as well. That's why we are implementing over here. But this point is saying a class cannot implement two interfaces that have methods with the same name but different return type. Okay, let's see interface A, method A, interface B, method A. Okay, so class implementing. Now here it's error, right? Here it is error. Why error? Because one, you are implementing with the name data type void, and second implementing with the integer, so you have error. If you are doing this one, so it will cause the error. So please remove this line, this will work perfectly for you. Okay, so now let's see, a variable name conflicts can be resolved by interface name. Yes, if in an interface we have a variable and in a second interface we have another variable, both have the same name, then we are in confusion that to whom we are going to call. So we can resolve this problem with the reference of the interface as we people were using with the reference of the object. Let's see, interface A having a variable with the name x, interface B having the variable with the name x. Look, both are different. This is different and this is different. Okay guys, this one having value 10, this one having value 100. Now when you are calling, then you will be in confusion that to whom you are calling. So if I write only this statement after the implementing both interfaces in the class central, and I'm writing over here system.out.println x. So what does this mean? It means it will give me the value of the first interface, that is 10. Okay, first come first serve. Now, but if you want to make the surety that you want to only access the specific one, so you may write this one, that system.out.println a.x. It means here a is the interface, which is this one. Okay, so this piece of code telling me we are accessing the variable 10 of interface A. We are accessing the variable x, this one, of interface A, this one. Okay, what if you are writing over here the B1? Now this line of code telling me that we are accessing the variable x that is in the interface B, means this 10 having the value this x having the value 100, and it belongs to interface B. Is it okay? Yes. So guys, I hope that we try to clear the concept with respect to the interfaces. If you people have any question, then you may ask me at this point.